in a minute on YouTube.
Okay. Shall we start?
I'll stop my video. Just a sec, please.
Okay, sure.
It's now live. You can start. Go on.
Okay. Hi everyone. Welcome to our meetup on insurance, especially in the time of pandemic. We'll talk about digital transformation of the sector with Dr. Robin Chiera. Hi, Robin. Welcome. It's good to have you. So I'll try to maybe talk a little bit about who you are, and for those of you who don't know, the FinTR is the Financial Innovation and Technology Association in Turkey. We're the first association focusing on these topics, and we hope to cover the concepts of digitization and technology in finance sector, banking and insurance. And this is one of our several meetups, and I've found them quite useful myself. And this one, I've had the luck to be a moderator and a host for Robin. It's great to get to know him as well. And Robin has a consulting firm, Digital Scouting, and he's an international speaker and a consultant focusing on finance and insurance sectors. So I'm quite excited to discuss the coming trends, how has COVID affected the sector in different countries, and what we should be expecting going forward. And I just gave him an update before this call started, saying that whatever we talk about, it would be great if we can also talk about how it reflects on developing markets, in markets like Turkey, where the insurance sector is still predominantly offline, working through agencies, and that's how the insurers are structured. So he's not an expert on the Turkish market, but we will together try to brainstorm on how whatever trend or technology we're speaking about could affect our market. Again, welcome. Feel free to add anything to this if you want. Otherwise, I'll just skip on to my questions.
Well, I'm a recovering insurance sales agent. So I started my career really in insurance by selling insurances on the street of Hamburg. So I'm actually an agent, but I have been clean for several years. But I still could, sell if I wanted to. But I think that's very important that in a lot of cases, people say, in our countries, we have a strong offline distribution, but I actually have not met or been in a lot of countries where the physical channel actually disappeared completely. The US also, being a high-tech country, has heavily focused on agents and brokers. So I think maybe we're, more persistent than everybody thought.
Yeah, the human touch, right? Everyone speculates whether we will keep it or not in the future, but we don't seem to lose it. So how has the insurance market responded to COVID globally? And maybe if you have any local examples from Germany or from other markets, that would also be great.
Well, I think there are two phases. One phase was the crisis mode. The crisis mode in which insurers needed to send their people to remote, where they needed to get some laptops for their employees. Some needed quickly to get e-signature ready. Others did not need to do that. So I think there was a crisis mode of 1 or 2 months. And it's also, we have a lot of insurance clients and also interested party. And for a month or 6 weeks, we didn't hear anything because they were busy with transforming their company. Some were super quick, some were it took longer. You had some insurance companies that went remote within 1 day. Others needed several weeks, and others still don't have all digital capabilities yet. So that's what I see in the crisis mode, and then there's a strategic mode, and I think that's where we're in right now. That's the mode in which we are in right now. And in the strategic mode, in where the people think, what are we going to do midterm? When are we going to go back? Is there a back or not? And I think I see there two trends. One trend is the restoration. I talk to a lot of senior decision makers that say, oh, I want to have all my staff back. I want to go back into this large office buildings and see all my pupils there and touch them on the shoulder. That's one trend. And that's what people say behind the scenes. The second trend is I see the revolution. That's where insurers, insurance companies, MGAs, agents, brokers say, No, we want to reduce office space actually by 30, 40, 50% and keep large parts of our task force, our sales force and our employees in a remote situation, which has a lot of cost advantage points because you save office space, has some consequences for IT security, but nevertheless, that's the two things what I see. I see a restoration or the attempt to restore, and I see the attempt of a revolution. And we will see, and then history has shown that we have, had both. I'm not sure on which will prevail, but I have a funny feeling that restoration will not be, will miss out on certain advantages. What a big advantage besides saving office space is, for example, I know a lot of smaller insurers around the world that are in remote spaces, Midwest US, some country, some rural areas in Germany, in France, in Switzerland. And they always have the difficulties to hire good and great talent and super hyper specialized people. Now they can hire somebody in Zurich, in Istanbul, or in some main city and let them work remote. That's possible. And funnily enough, Digital Scouting had been a remote company with over 20 people from day one, because we needed to hire the best in certain countries around the world. And so it's possible. Of course, 20 people or 20,000 speak a difference. But I think it's not only office space that has a big advantage, but also you can develop new solutions, hire new people, and solve a lot of old problems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm very interested in the revolutionized perspective than restore, especially because I see it less about remote work, but more about maybe people starting to realize that consumers want different things, that consumers can actually respond to different things. And that may be the more interesting part. So how do you think the consumer perspective has been evolving, and has COVID shown us anything more to where it is, where it could go?
Well, consumers were annoyed by insurance companies already before COVID. Now, and we were already competing as insurers with our 6 weeks, 8 weeks until we get a quote or a claim with Amazon same-day delivery. I think we were already ancient before COVID, but now it's even worse. People expect real time. People expect that their problems get solved. And one interesting thing is that we as insurer, actually, we're not problem solvers yet. We are product sellers. And that's a big problem. And I think that's a big thing, a big, problem in the industry, is that we actually should be assistants to people, to companies, to solve problems and of course sell products, but that should be the second step, not the first step. And I think that's a big challenge, and people are used to companies that solve their problems. Google solves our problems with search, with IT infrastructure, with Word, with Excel, or Microsoft does that too. And I think that's super important to understand that we should focus on actually solving problems. And that's where I think people are getting intolerant against us.
Mm-hmm. Solving problems. That's cool. I guess that requires us to look at the person, right? The individual, and try to understand them better. So could technology help us with this? And do you see that this is kind of speeding the digital transformation, collecting data, or use of technology? What do you see as the role of technology in this evolution?
Technology is one aspect, but technology is not the key. Why? What do I mean? When you have a hard organized insurance company, highly hierarchical, focused on physical sales, on people going out there with list of clients, going there and trying to sell them insurance, and that type of insurance that the headquarter decided they needed to sell this month. Of course, technology can automate, or I say electrify. They can have, electrical signature. They can have a lead management. They can have time management. But that doesn't change the insurance business model. The big question is when you, as an insurance company, start to help clients with your knowledge, provide information that's helpful, tips, tricks in health, in life, in P&C topics. And then you are actually there when the customer needs you, not only to sell them something. Then technology can even scale your effect tremendously. So what I want to say is technology is great, and it's important, and you need, in order to compete with other industries, it's important to have like a baseline of technology. But if you just invest in technology and do not invest in the modernization of sales and the modernization of actually how do you see the client in your organization, that's not enough.
So you're saying it's more of a culture thing and how the organization perceives the consumer. Do I understand correctly?
Both radical positions have a problem. If you're just on the technology side and say, okay, we just take out old technology and digitalize every process we have, that's a problem, because when you have a bad analog process, you have a bad digital process, but just wasted a lot of money. But if you, on the other hand, have just, people with colorful Post-its on the wall and, wearing jeans and no ties anymore, and everything is agile with a lot of English words in, your local language, and do not invest in the technology that, should actually be the base of this, change, then that's just, having a funny innovation lab that doesn't change anything. So I think the combination, it's you need to transform your technology, you need to modernize it, you need to open it, and on the other hand, also work on the culture. It's both. It's not only one. And I think that's also super important.
So we're in a market in Turkey where we're still trying to explain what an aggregator does and how it works. And we're trying to convince people that digital acquisition is actually, it's good, it's coming, it's growing, and all of that. On the other hand, when I look at the different websites, including yours, I see like AI, digitization, attention hacking, and voice coming, IoT, the telematics, all that stuff. So there's a lot going on, all these different, terms. So if I ask you what are the key trends, behavioral trends, technological trends, where do you see the maybe most impactful places? What will really change the industry, and where should we be looking at?
I have 5 trends, and 3 are like really urgent and 2 are midterm. My biggest trend is really to change the way how we see the client. I come from the sales background, but I also led like large-scale transformation projects at insurers. And of course, we all sometimes thought about the client, but this was more about us. What can I get from the client? How can I sell the client something? How can I make him, call less, write less, do more? But that's the wrong way of thinking. You need to think about what can I do for the client? That's what's important. And I think that's something that's not natural to insurance organizations. And that's what we need to change. We need to change how we think about the client, that we want to deliver service. And we do not only want to provide risk coverage, because then we just send them once a year a letter that nobody understands. It probably entails also a rise in premiums we have on the back, so he doesn't hopefully see it. And that's the old way. It's old way because we have attackers, people attacking us that have a high frequency rate of interaction with the client, and a positive one, and they help the client, or they at least show or try to help the client. And we at some point will not have a chance against these other organizations, companies, and industries. And in order to, stay in the game, we need to, not only because we want to be nicer, provide services, but also knowledge to the clients. Our underwriters know so much about risk. Our claims department knows so much about, claims. Why not provide this information to clients? Why should actually why do we have so much fitness influencers and fitness people out there and nutrition companies? Why isn't it actually insurers providing this knowledge about how to live longer to the client? Or when it comes to finances, why aren't the insurer educating people about financial freedom, financial stability, getting rid of debt, and to building a great life for yourself and your family? Or when it comes to business, why do not we provide certain information how to run a business well? We know it because we have all of the statistical data and anecdotal data. And I think this is the most big important trend, is we need to provide services, that's IT services, but also content to our clients that helps them in their daily lives and in the channels where their attention is, and with the formats they consume. So if they consume 30-second videos, but we have 80 pages white paper, then throw away the white paper and put into 30-second videos. It's easy like that. And I think that's super important. The second topic is platforms. I cannot hear the word anymore, and ecosystem's a big buzzword, but what do I mean with that? It's about the idea that you open your IT and think about, when I develop something, how can I develop something that also could be used outside of my company? So if I build an application process for insurance, why do not build it in a way, also technology-wise, that I can provide it to e-commerce platforms, to other players, to micro players in my niche, or in in certain other companies. So then, and they have a checkout process, maybe they just click, oh, I also want insurance from that or that, for example, your example in the Turkish market. And to make it easy for the client and the partner. And I think that's a big idea, to open your IT up and to build it already in the moment you develop something in a way others also could use it. And the second one, I mean, that's like the easy part. The difficult part is to become a platform yourself and to also allow other IT infrastructure to come into your digital ecosystem, your websites, your client portals, your broker portals. And why should it all only be about you? Why shouldn't you not invite others? I think that's the second point. So first one is client-driven, services, value. Second one is platform and ecosystem. And the third one is open banking. In Europe, we have the PSD2 law, which means that banks need to provide the data of the client to third parties if the client agrees. What does that mean? You have your transactions on your account, and if you have another company that needs this information, for example, if it's a bookkeeping company, then the bank needs to give the data to this bookkeeping company. Also, in countries that don't have PSD2, this open banking thing has happened. I think this is the biggest strategic move. If that's in your market possible technically, or even from the regulation, you should be, as insurer, be on the forefront in having a PSD2 or an open banking strategy, and think about how can I, as an insurer, provide better value to the client by providing a multi-banking app, for example, or services around finances that are a little bit more trustful than maybe the bank that just want to sell another credit. That's something I think is the biggest opportunity for insurers in the last 25 years around the world, open banking. And these are like the really eminent things I would put on the board meeting agenda for the next meeting: client-driven services, platform, and open banking. And what's a little bit more along the way is IoT. I think that's also a big changer. I would invest a little bit in like small labs that really evaluate that, get capabilities on board, understand it, do already small partnerships with the players there. And the other one is blockchain. I know it has been hyped for some time, and then the hype went away, but I see very small steps in that direction in the insurance industry, some niche solutions in accounting and others that get slowly some adaption. And also there, as an insurer, you need to invest in building up capabilities and understanding and technology, because at some point all of this will come.
Mm-hmm. So if we look at all of these, and if I'm an insurer, or let's say even a broker, an aggregator like ourselves, it sounds like it requires some different organization, or at least a team that really focuses on some of these. For example, the first one, changing the way we look at the client. Who should be responsible for this? Because we're talking about different, data or approaches that accumulate that we could actually share with the client, but someone needs to think about it. Someone needs to plan it. Someone needs to know about the client to be able to say, hey, this one I see here, let's use it. How do insurers organize themselves for this? Which department or who does this?
It's a very good question. I really like it because it's already thinking about the implementation of all of these. I think there are two answers to that. Both are unpopular. One is the CEO. The CEO needs to be on top of this. If you do not have the support of the CEO, nothing is going to happen. And the second one is everybody. It should be the responsibility of everybody. Everybody should think about these things. And that's why I'm surely not how should I put it, a big fan of this old culture and mission, and let's write our values down and all of that, if it's not based by business desires. But I think that's also a reason why you need to have values, or to actually write them down. What are your values of the company? And if one value is you want to be a modern digital player in order to take advantage of these gigantic opportunities we have currently, then you have a North Star. And again, I think leadership is urgent. If you're a CEO and you see that your leadership team does not adapt that and does not qualify for that, then it's time to educate, motivate, and at some point also replace. I know one super exciting case. I cannot name the company, but one exciting case here in Germany. And what the new CEO did was exchanging the whole leadership team after evaluating, and that already has its effects in that the whole company attracts talent that otherwise never would have worked for it. And I think we will hear a lot from that company sooner or later. And I think that's vital. The CEO needs to be. If you are the board of advisors of an insurer and thinking about which one do we hire, a senior decision maker who will do a good job, or maybe you should go for one generation younger from some tech company, giving a senior partner on the side that knows insurance stuff and try to build the dominant insurer of the 21st century in your region.
Mm-hmm. That of course, when we talk about culture and leadership, we immediately move on to thinking about human capital. Like insurance, the way I see it, at least in Turkey, it's not been a sexy sector attracting, the best graduates or the young tech savvy people. So I'm wondering if this is changing across the world, or are there companies that are able to change this?
Yes, it is possible when you have a clear mission and vision where you want to go with your company. And then people are not interested in working for an insurer, but they are excited to working for an exciting use case. And if you give somebody, for example, a head of business intelligence who can also program and brings the whole team with them, a person I always joke and say, you find at every corner. Yeah, of course you don't find them or her. But the idea is if you give such a person the possibility to say, you can build a BI from scratch here, and we have 120 years of data, as some people are, quitting their old job at Facebook, Google, and going to that insurer because they finally can do all the cool stuff and build. And I think you need this kind of people that want to build and optimize and go and do risky things and be active and not only manage. And I think if you have such an overall story for your company, insurer can be as sexy as everybody else.
Mm-hmm. Cool. From among the things that you've counted, you've somewhat distracted me, so I have to go back to them and ask a few questions. But especially open banking was quite interesting because I didn't think of that in the context of insurance. Have you seen any examples or can think of examples for insurers to look into this? Like what should be the framework? How can an insurer or let's say an insurance startup focus on open banking?
Well, there's the Allianz is working on Iconic Finance, which is a stealth project, but got leaked a little bit into public. So they're working on some sort of multi-banking application that is not run by a bank but by themselves. So I think what's most important there is to there are a lot of already successful open banking or PSD2 apps, application services out there. Copying is always bad because you're mostly behind the curve. But think about your interpretation of it. What could we do for the Turkish market? What could we do for the Indian market? What could we do for other markets? And how can we adapt it culturally for our culture, for our language, and for the needs of the people? Maybe it's also better not to go to the B2C side. Maybe it's B2B application for merchants or for industry. And I think that's to understand how. But what was the goal of all of this? The goal is to be very close to the client. Why did all insurance folder fail? Because nobody goes home at the end of the day and says, honey, let's have a look at our insurance folder. When I had the last time to look at my insurance folder, probably years ago, and I'm an insurance nerd, that's everything I do every day. And I think that's important to understand that you need to actually, and by the way, in PSD2 and banking, people look way more often into their account because they want to know how much they have, or want to manage something, do it during a transfer. So it's something natural where you are in regular contact with your client. And this will come, this is coming. The big question is, will banks be the gatekeeper to your clients? Will tech companies be the gatekeeper to your clients? Or will you be the gatekeeper to the clients of everybody else?
Yeah, great question. So it's not only the job of startups. You're saying that incumbent insurers should also be considering these, which probably they should, right? To stay alive.
A smart move to do that and then go to an insurer and say, for a small and modest fee, we provide you the service or you can buy us or something. That could be a smart move.
Mm-hmm. What I found interesting is that you did not really mention AI, or I see that you're involved with the Open Voice Network. Yeah. I was maybe hoping to hear some of that. It did not get into your initial list, at least. Does it get into it in some other way? It also connects to a question from Mr. Yusuf Safar, who's asking about the usage of AI in processing claims, mainly in transportation and health sector.
For me, that's standard. You need that. Why? Because you can have 25 subject matter experts there that work from 9 to 5, or you can have an algorithm there that works like 100 subject matter experts working 24 hours. I mean, this is standard. We should stop talking about AI insurance because we should already all do it. But what I want to say about that, we should apply it into the core of our organization. What does that mean? You need an AI team. You need to have an AI in your operations department. And you should really think about what can we replace? Ruthlessly, you need to think about this. And by the way, when you have social responsibility for your employees, and that's really nice, I mean, it's all possible to educate people. You still need to have people to train the algorithms. And by the way, there are a lot of new opportunities and also tasks and jobs coming with this new time. So you can also take these people and maybe apply them to other things. I think nothing is more brutal than to force people to do a task, a repetitive task that technology can do for you. So yes, AI is a big point, but I don't talk about it because I say, guys and girls, you need to already do it. And there are a lot of technology partners out there all around the world doing great work, and just find some and also build up own capabilities. And the second one, voice, yes, voice would be another midterm trend. I see insurers should really think about how they can leverage that.
The Open Voice Network, you're quite involved with it. So what do you do there, and how will it impact insurance?
So the Open Voice Network is an initiative coming out of MIT in order to find standards in the voice technology. Voice is so young. Everybody knows Samsung has its own, Google has its own, Amazon has its own standards and technologies. And the idea is to find standards everybody works on. And also rules and procedures and all of these things. Voice is super at its early stage, not super early, but early. You have startups coming up, companies that open the voice departments and all of that. And I think what is the beauty of voice? The beauty of voice is that it reduces friction. I can say, I don't have an Alexa here, so I can say, Alexa, play my most favorite music, and they do it. I don't need to fumble around. I didn't know to do that. I can even, sit on a dinner table and do that. And when they have better skills, voice skills, we can also ask them other things. And for insurance, I think two things are important. One is being close where the client is, providing them digital services they really like. When they say, play my favorite music, why shouldn't we say, and this playlist is presented by, and then your insurer. Or maybe it's a very regional event calendar. I mean, there are a million things you could think about how to become relevant in the life of your client. Or if it's an alarm thing, your car is outside, there's a hailstorm coming, and then here is the XYZ insurance alert for your car, get your car inside. Things like that. But one other thing I think is super important is that a voice can reduce work internally. I mean, I know so many agents and brokers that have to fight so many paper things. Wouldn't it be great if they could just ask, what is give me an update on my commission, and that just says a number without, logging in 27 different systems and then and doing that. Or what is the status of the contract of Mr. Meyer? And then it gives you the update. So it can also reduce work and friction in processes in companies, something that's totally overlooked. So I think customer facing is important. Marketing is important, but also efficiency inside the departments.
So now I imagine you going into a company that you consult and walking through the walkways. People look at you with bad faces. Here's this guy who's going to bring technology and get us out.
Well, the thing is, I do not hesitate to talk about the unpleasant truth. And that's why, the way, our big differentiator from us as a consulting company and others who tell you what you want to hear. So if you have, my grandmother told me this, how can you differentiate a good friend between a good and a bad friend? A bad friend tells you what you want to hear when you want to hear it. And a good friend tells you that what you don't want to hear it at a point you don't want to hear it. And our job is, we are the ruthless in analysis, in data analysis, in interviews and all of that. And we bring you the message, of course, in a respectful way, closed shop, 4 eyes only, and things like that when you're the project manager, a lead there, or the C-suite. But we bring you what we really, really, really think, and no political bias there. And I think that's important if you want to have decisions that make your company fit for the future. You need to base them on true data, and not only on a standard consulting PowerPoint presentation 75 other insurers in your country also already had. So yes, but when it comes, for example, to the transformation, we argue always, for example, when they say, okay, Robin, our staff, how can we educate them? How many millions do I need to invest into our staff? I say 0. The knowledge of the world is out there for free. You wouldn't believe how many YouTube courses you have in technology, in agile, in everything. You need to have the willingness and the culture inside your company and the allowance to the people that they can educate themselves, and not only like getting a consultant or getting a coach from outside. Always expensive. The knowledge of the world is out there. And I think that's super interesting. Or join programs. There are digital programs where people can sign up and work through their way through it. And I think that's super important. So you can take your employees on your journey, but there's no doubt about it that not everybody will accompany you with that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. So I want to get to Turkey and talk about maybe developing markets and what could be some of the opportunities with your highlighted technologies. But before that, let's make sure we answer the few questions we got. Again, Mr. Safar had asked about AI in processing claims, mainly in transportation and health. I think your answer mostly covers it. You said that it should be everywhere, basically, and that we should look to ruthlessly automate things. But do you have anything else to add for transportation or health specifically, or claims?
Well, transportation, it really did. I mean, there are a lot of IoT things going on. And I know, for example, IBM did something, a great project with Maersk. So there are already projects implemented in supply chain, in mobility, in transportation. And the big question is not only to digitalize processes, but also maybe you have to get new data and you can calculate, you can calculate risk differently, not only with claims data, but also statistics and other data. And you can actually have people being liable for certain damages that are happening in your supply chain. So I think that's already far ahead, because also people in the logistics and transportation industry are always super trying to find the new edge there. And when it comes to health, I think we are in the very beginning. I mean, it's insane that you as a patient actually go from doctor to doctor and tell your story again, and not that the doctor actually has all the data of the other doctor. At least it's not here the case in Germany and other European countries, Western European countries. And actually you need to have, I mean, imagine what Ping An does, for example, when they collect data from their hospitals, from their doctors, from the health insurance. They're able to do predictive models about certain diseases, while hospitals don't have access to the information the carrier has. Something insane. And I think in 50 years, our grandchildren will be asking us and saying, a human did the diagnosis? How risky is that? I think that the opportunities are endless. For insurers, I think more in the health space is an opportunity to share good behavior with your clients. Everybody wants to be healthy and fit, and why not actually be the trusted provider? My favorite story is when I got my first daughter. I have a friend who is a large broker over here, and he also got his daughter. And I asked him, and he asked him, how do you, when he was also talking about how can we digitalize? I asked him, when you got your first daughter, where did you get all the information from? How to handle her and all the questions young parents have? And he said, from friends, families, and Google. And I asked him, not from your insurer? And he looked at me as if I would be drunk or something. And I said, yes, we as insurer know so much about children, about health, about accident and whatever. Why didn't we actually provide people in these times and then be on their radar? And I think in the health sector, it's a lot about sharing knowledge with the customer, even without technology.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. Another question is about peer-to-peer insurance. How you see that coming? Is it a fad or to stay and change the way insurance sector works?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think clients don't care about how things are provided. I mean, do people really care what kind of motor is in their car? They just want to get from A to B. Therefore, I'm a little bit skeptical when it comes to the peer-to-peer space. If it does not have any additional value, like no cost or something, that would be interesting, or anything in addition. I don't see that, because if you look at certain organizational forms in economy, all these self-organized things never really worked. So I think I'm a little bit skeptical about that if there's not a tremendous additional value in addition to that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Ahmet Elalchin had asked the question, so thank you for the question. If you have any follow-on questions to that, feel free to share. So let's get to maybe the developing countries like Turkey and what these opportunities could mean. So when we draw the picture, we're talking about established insurers. Probably the market has some, few leading companies. Most of these markets are quite concentrated in that sense. Typically, there's a very heavy, offline distribution network that is performing typically. Of course, without considering how it could perform with digitization. But let's assume we're in a market like this, and Turkey is more or less like that. We have some aggregators like ourselves, and we're trying to change the industry in a way. But of course, there's resistance. So we talked about several technologies. How could we penetrate? How could these technologies change the market for this kind of a market?
I'm not sure if I understand correctly. I'm sorry.
So we talked about a few technologies. We said, of course, the client-focused perspective is one. It's not a technology, but it's a trend, and it's great. And then we talked about platforms, ecosystems, and you said that also open banking, IoT, blockchain. We have several trends and technologies coming. And then we have these markets in developing economies that are very offline heavy. How should these markets respond? Because typically there are players in these markets, the big incumbent insurer or the insurers, and then there are some middlemen, the brokers, agencies, and then some startups maybe that are just sprouting. For this kind of an ecosystem, like what do you envision? How will things change?
Well, I would really get rid of the idea of the difference between a mature and non-mature market, Western, Eastern. I would really get rid of that, because again, the perception outside of your country is mostly people think only better of it. If you see at the US, don't get me wrong, great country, but when it comes to the insurance industry, if you compare it to a lot of other ones, and it's behind when it comes for aggregators, digital transformation, all of these things in certain areas. So only the perception you have about yourself and others, I would just leave it all alone, because it doesn't help. But if you say we're a little bit earlier, or we are not, we are a little bit behind, when you want to keep on this thought, it's actually an opportunity. It's an opportunity because you can learn from the mistakes of others without doing them themselves. I really hate when people say learn through your mistakes. Why? Because it's expensive. It's better to learn from the mistakes from other people. And that's actually, when you're a little bit behind, it's great because you can learn from others and the mistakes of others and adapt what's best for you and your ecosystem. So I think I would really think about it as an opportunity. Concretely, I would really look outside the own country. Even if you're an agent, if you're a broker, if you're a small insurer, I would look, or a startup, I would look outside the country and see, what can I learn from this company in Dubai? What can I learn from this company from the US? What can I learn there and there? That's super important to really scout trends in your ecosystem and be digital, be on LinkedIn and have and follow these discussions and companies. And also, you will notice at some point that you get a picture of yourself and say, well, I now had to look at 27 different companies, and we are not that bad. I mean, at least in this part, we're actually quite good. I have not seen one case that's better than me. I'm very often in boardrooms and people are, bashing their own company and then they're mentioning a few things and saying, you guys know you're the only one 5,000 kilometers around that are doing these things. Be proud of that, because it's actually not too bad. And I think that's something I would take away from it. When you're in a certain market, go outside, have a look outside, and also, and be proud of what you have already achieved. I think that's super important.
Mm-hmm. I think that's really insightful, saying that asking people not to restrict themselves with the markets and just focus on what they could provide to the client, both for startups and for insurers. And I just got a small correction here. Melike Demiral highlights that the Turkish insurance is not offline, that the agencies are actually linked online to the insurers to get instant quotes. And yes, in response to your question, Melike, when I mentioned offline, I meant not having the direct online sale, not being in direct touch with the customer, not collecting the customer data. And I kind of think those are the missing pieces here.
And maybe one thing about online and offline. Of course, at the beginning, a lot of people said the agent will be dead. And I thought also this would be way quicker, especially the way how we sell insurance today. But I think it's all about combining the best of the offline world and combining the best from the online world. if you have a sales agent today who says, you know, I don't use social media, I do not use technology, is the same as if it would be a sales agent 30 years ago that says, I do not want to visit the client. It's part of your job today. But we found in our projects that the best sales agents that are super successful are mostly super open and at least to listen. What could they do differently to become better? And, you know, and that's the great thing about insurance sales, to make more money. It's all about, you know, being open for these new tools and tactics and arguments. And I would always do that. And by the way, technology can help offline sales. Why? And when I was an agent, there was always a terrible time gap. I called the client, and 1 year later, I called the client again, and he said, "Oh, Robin, thank you that you're calling. So nice. I just bought a house. I did this and that." And I was like, always, "Yeah, but you didn't do it with me, and I call you." So there was always a mismatch between the need of the client and when we were on their mind. And technology enables you, when you use like attention hacking, for example, as a sales organization, you can make sure that your agents and brokers or your salespeople are on the mind of their target group all the time. And when they have the demand, people come to you. And so you can have a strong offline sales force, you know, physical people, men and women. On the other hand, you can use technology to scale them, to make your 50 salespeople as if in the market be felt as 500. And I think that's the beauty of it, that you can actually use online and offline together. And on the other hand, online distribution also can be helped by offline. Why? If you have in the call center people that are really super knowledgeable about insurance, and the people call and want to have a consulting session, an algorithm, you know, can do certain things yet, but not so much. And that could also be a solution to combine the best of online and offline. But one thing is for sure, there's no way of everything's going to stay the same. We don't need to change. All of that is doomed to fail, but why not combine everything? And I think that's where the beauty is, and where also the opportunity is.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned that we in these developing markets could actually be looking at other markets where these things are already implemented or starting to be implemented, and get inspired to bring in new projects. Are there any countries that you think we should be watching? Any countries that either from a regulatory standpoint or because of the abundance of startups are taking the lead on this in insurance?
I think when I would be an insurer in a certain regional market, I would look at the countries around myself or that are culturally near to me, or where I can, when there's a startup, from the language easily or from the culture easily for things that makes things easier. Sometimes you don't need to look around the planet for better ideas. On the other hand, sometimes it makes more sense when you're a mutual insurer, for example, it makes more sense to go to a mutual insurer from Germany, south of Germany, or from the Iowa in the US, than to talk to the insurance professional across the street who works for a multinational company. That can also make sense. So I would really look outside the country. But again, you said which countries. There are hidden champions everywhere. I would look, of course, at the big stars everybody knows, but I would also look at the hidden champion, those you hear, oh, he did a great funding round, or this stock price went up like crazy, or they are planning this and that. And I really would look at the hidden champions and learn from them. And I think it's also important to attend conferences around the world, or at least there their agenda, see what kind of companies are there, and look at their homepages and see, is that something for us? I would really scout the trends in technology. And there are no countries where that are role models. Of course, there are regions and hubs that are great in the US, in the East, in the West, but there's not one role model. You can find a great partner in your neighboring country. It's more about, are you open or not? I think that's the biggest one.
Mm-hmm. Great. Another question from Melike. She asks you to give some examples of impact of digitalization and new tech on profitability of the companies, because most companies are focused on short-term results.
I can share the story of the German family insurance, which they did the first InsurTech IPO in the West. The CEO and owner of the company, he decided a few years ago, when the term InsurTech didn't even exist, to completely replace the IT system, and said, we need to stop this crazy insurance IT and need to get a real-time, go away from batch-based, go into a real-time event-based IT system and they build something, some homegrown, really interesting thing. And instead of having whole armies of people sitting there doing manual work, opening letters and all of that, everything is automated. We actually did a fun thing with the COO. We did a jog. So the office is in the 5th building. His office was in the 5th or 6th building. And in the basement, there was, that one machine that reads the letter, the application, the few things that got into by paper. Actually, it was a doctor's report from some claim. And we ran towards his office in the 6th floor and go to his computer to see which one was quicker, the algorithm or us running to his computer. And the algorithm beat us because it needed, I think, only 1 minute 25 to regulate the claim. And others need weeks for that. And so what, for example, German Family Insurance does, they almost double their client base every year. They have hundreds of thousands of clients. It's insane. And I think and the company has doubled its stock price within the last month. And I think all of these things are examples for that. In the end, all the stuff what we do is also, it impacts the bottom line.
Mm-hmm. Well, I can also say that here in Turkey, we are actually trying to convince the insurers to create these web services, microservices for us to actually also automate the after-sales operations. And I can see how that will remove the operational redundancy there and make the process more efficient. So maybe that could be given as an example as well. So a lot of these places where you're suggesting to automate and ruthlessly automate, use AI or not use AI, but regardless, I think that those are all examples where we get more efficient. So it boils down to the bottom line. Okay, so we answered that one. One more question as a follow-up question.
For all the people watching
Sure.
right now, don't forget to click the like here on YouTube and subscribe to the Great Finter channel. A lot of people watching but not subscribing, not liking. You need to like, you need to share, you need to hug your phone, so make the algorithm spread this webinar in this great initiative.
Yes, likes for FinTR, likes for this meetup, and also for Digital Scouting, please. Another question is, how can IoT automate the data sharing, and how can insurers benefit from it? And he started saying most consumers are willing to share extra personal information if it means saving money on their insurance policies. So can IoT be used for this?
Yeah, I know a few projects. I think IoT will have two effects. One is the prevention of claims, and the other one is new kind of services. What does that mean? Prevention of claims, that your oven or your insurer, he has, 100,000 ovens registered from a certain brand. He knows that in this particular series batch of ovens, after 5,423 hours of running, there's a technical defect that might cause a fire. 100 hours before, he sends you a WhatsApp, please look at your oven when it's heat. When the left corner is red, then you should replace it, whatever, something like that. So it's all about the prevention of claims. It's great for the client because the house doesn't burn down. And it's great for the combined ratio because your combined ratio goes down. And that's when you as an insurer are able to do these things on a mass scale. You have a lower combined ratio, and you can lower, and when others cannot do it, you can lower the price of your policy below the combined ratio of your competitor and take all market. And I think that's something super cool. And we see examples in car insurance. I've seen these examples already happening. And the other thing is services. You can build, besides the prevention of claims, you can build services for your clients. If you are the household insurance or renters insurance, you can build some information out of the things But again, IoT is at the very beginning. No standards, almost no standards there. There's no Google or Amazon of IoT yet. So I think that we are super early here, but that's also a game insurers should be in. But before you go to IoT, which is technically extremely complicated, invest your time in open banking, and because that's a little bit easier. If you cannot do open banking, don't dream about the dominance of IoT.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And then when you talk about reducing prices, I think it connects back to, again, moving away from looking at customers as just segments and moving towards looking at them as individuals and collecting their data, interpreting their data, and communicating with them. So I find that quite interesting as a shift, as a mind shift.
But maybe one more thing, lowering the price doesn't mean lowering profitability. When you are more efficient than your neighbor and you lower the price, your profitability can skyrocket.
Yeah, good to highlight. For any other questions, please share with us your questions. I am looking at my notes again. I think one of the most interesting things that I got from you is to think more maybe low tech first, and to think about how I approach the customer, the client, and how my organization responds to this. And that's quite insightful. And then I think it's a good first step than just looking out there and trying to scout technologies. That was a good distinction. And the second one was, when I tried to kind of steer you towards coming more local and talking about developing economies, how you mentioned, hey, get out of that mindset and just look out there to see what's being done and try to bring it to wherever you are, or go do it there maybe, right? So there are definitely opportunities
when you
in every
are
market.
the market, you are a startup in Turkey or in region in neighboring countries in the whole region. Do not limit it your vision, your strategy to your own market. Maybe you can also help German insurers, French insurers, US insurers. Yes, the market is global. The market is global for your solution if it's technology, or maybe in your market there's a need for something super high and others not, and you become the super specialist for this one thing. Or even as incumbent, when you have reached your glass ceiling in your own market because of certain things, why not look outside and also go there and collaborate or distribute your products or provide services to others, or also provide, if you have communities from your countrymen around the world, you can also, think about these other things. And again, let's think global in a global way, and let's not be modest. Let's be modest and nice and everything, but not in the vision for your company. Why not? When not now, when then?
Perfect. So as digital scouting, what are the latest projects? What type of projects do you get lately? Maybe within the pandemic period, what do companies focus on? You mentioned the restorative versus revolutionary, but if we talk more tangible about the kinds of projects for insurance sector.
So what we do is, for example, you are the sales C-suite, chief sales officer of your insurer, and you say, I have a great sales force, men and women out there crushing it. But this needs to be different. I do not want that my agent and broker or my sales managers go into the car, visit 3 clients, visit 3 brokers, and do business. I want that it's differently. Then we come in and we make actually your agents and brokers, but also your sales force that manages these people, and make them into micro-influencers so that they use a lot of social media, modern technology that's of course, used in your country, in your region, but they increase the touch points with the clients X times. So it's not about having the touch point with your client once a year, but once a week, and not having the contact once a month with your, as a company, with your agent or broker, but daily. But in a way, without adding one more employee to your company. And that's the magic. You scale the effect of your people without scaling your organization. And I think that's something a sales organization are standing in line right now for us, because we're the only one on the planet that do that. And by the way, we haven't done it in the past, and we have use cases that show that. Number one. Number two is, if you're an insurer and insurtech and you want to be more visible globally, you say we have a great use case, we did great work, and now we want to share it, or when you want to internationalize and have a layer foundation, or you want to do an IPO, or you want to raise a lot of money, then we are the people that can make you more known globally. We have done it before with several companies. And last but not least, when you want to have an exotic outside view on your strategy, then you come to us and say, this is our strategy. I know you have no clue about the Turkish market or other regional markets, but what is your view on it as an exotic outside view? Who's deeply rooted? We scout trends all around the world. Before COVID, I was traveling all around the world, and that's what we're really, really good at. But again, sales optimization, branding, and having a look at the strategy.
Okay, perfect. Any questions? If our audience has any more questions, then let's respond to it. Anyone has any questions? My friend here also writes me questions from YouTube. So,
cool.
Okay, someone says, this question may have already been asked. What role in the future will brokers continue to play in the digital interaction with providers and customers? Will sales soon be exclusively digital?
Well, I think very good sales agents and brokers. They can live in the Middle Ages, they can live now, they can live on Mars, they can live in 5,000 years from now. You always will have them and they will be super successful, the successful ones. And it's all about using technology to increase their effect. Do I believe that digital distribution will increase? Yes, I believe also at some point we will have algorithms as individuals that buy in our name insurance coverage, and algorithms will buy and sell insurances. I really believe this for easy. I mean, do you need liability insurance for $100 being sold by a person? I don't think so. But there are more complex services, and there will be also new insurance policies. There will be maybe flat rate insurance, all inclusive, no risk excluded. There are a million opportunities there. I think you need salespeople at least for the next decade, but you don't need the old ones. You don't, not for age, not the age, but old-minded people. You need people that embrace technology as their best friend and their revenue driver, not as their enemy. You need people to go out there, want to become a personal brand, a micro-influencer in their community, that the clients come to them in the moment of need and not that you 1 year later call them. That's when you do this as agent and broker, I think you will have a golden future ahead. But when you sit behind and you want to do insurance like in the 80s and 90s, you will be gone at some point. And I think we need to be honest about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you're a good salesperson, I guess you can survive anywhere. And if it's not insurance, you'll find something else to do, I'm sure.
You can sell insurance, you can sell everything because you cannot smell it, you cannot eat it, you cannot take it for a ride.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, any more questions from the audience or from YouTube?
No questions from YouTube. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I think we answered all 6 questions. Anything you want to add, Robin, on top of this discussion?
Yeah, well, if anybody has a question, don't hesitate to reach out. We do also have a lot of people behind the scenes. Or if you have a small issue, don't hesitate to reach out. And don't forget to click, share, comment this podcast, this video on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and wherever it's posted. And give a lot of love to the FinTech community here that does all the work, and I think it's a great format. And I am one of my big goals of 2020 was to come to Turkey to really connect with the community there. I could not because of COVID, but as soon as that one is possible, I'm really looking forward to see you all at a great conference in Istanbul, maybe.
Yeah, at least we could virtually host you, right? So hopefully we'll do more of this, and we'll see you more. It was great to connect with you, and it was a pleasure to chat with you. Thank you very much for attending today, and talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot, Robin. Bye.